J.W. Williams Funeral Directors have been proudly serving the people of this community since 1918. Service is our motto. The poor, the rich, the middle class and all are given the best of care and attention at all times. You have the privilege to select what you want. In your time of need, contact the capable, the competent, and the dependable staff of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home who is genuinely concerned with your care. At J.W. Williams Funeral Home, you are aptly served by the proprietor president, Deacon Arthur L. Parker, who continues the traditions and values set forth by the past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams. Your announcers for the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Sunday morning program are Deacon Arthur L. Parker, Reverend Isaac H. Owens, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, Minister Frankie Harmon, Miss Sandra Johnson, and Deacon Earl Clark, Jr.
Thank you, and good morning, friends. We come to you this morning to bring announcements, dedications, and songs. We certainly hope that your day may be brighter after listening to our program. The family of Mother Ida Mae Gaston Mumphrey of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mr. Alvin Chester Rouse of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mother Christine Kendrick Wiggins of Warner Robins, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Gwendolyn Ray Hillman of Cordele, Georgia. The family of United States Army veteran Mr. Charles Edward Brown, Jr. of Rochelle, Georgia. The family of Miss Sandra Wyvette Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. Would like to thank their many friends for the food, the flowers, the condolences, and all other expressions of sympathy and kindness shown to them during the hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. Mother Ida Mae Gaston Mumphrey, age 90, of 1706 South 6th Street, Cordele, Georgia, died Thursday, January 13th, at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mother Ida Mae Gaston Mumphrey, age 90, was held Tuesday, January 18th, at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Portico in Cordele, Georgia. Her pastor, the Reverend Jeff Wilson, pastor of the Odom Grove Baptist Church, officiated. The burial followed at the Westview Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted daughter, Ms. Magdalene Hodge Outlaw of Cordele, Georgia. Her loving bonus children, Miss Denise Hodge Morris and her husband, Mr. Melvin Morris, Miss Darlene Hodge, Miss Sandra Hodge, Mr. Ronald Hodge and his wife, Mrs. Gloria Hodge, and Mr. Donald Hodge, all of Jacksonville, Florida. 28 beloved grandchildren, to include Mrs. Stephanie Perry Clark and her husband, Mr. Alan Clark, Mr. Brandon Perry, his wife, Mrs. Kim Perry of Cordele, Georgia, Miss Ashur Hodge, and Ms. Belinda Hodge, all of Atlanta, Georgia. Mr. Marion Hodge and his wife, Mrs. Sierra Hodge of Cordele, Georgia. Ms. Victoria Butts of Warner Robins, Georgia. Ms. Ventresa Hodge, Mr. Reginald Lawrence and his wife, Mrs. Veronica Lawrence, and Miss Cynthia Dent, all of Cordele, Georgia. 29 beloved great-grandchildren. Her beloved sisters-in-law, Mrs. Ola Mae Evans of Jacksonville, Florida, and Mrs. Dorothy Hodge of Jupiter, Florida. a host of beloved nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mother Ida May Gaston Montfrey, age 90, of 1706 South 6th Street, Cordele, Georgia. Mr. Alvin Chester Rouse, age 67, of 410 West 17th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Friday, January 14th, at the Crease Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Alvin Chester Rouse, age 67, was held Wednesday, January 19th, graveside at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, officiated. Survivors include his loving and devoted wife of 49 years, Mrs. Ann Denise Jones Rouse of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved son, Mr. Kevon Jones of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved brothers, Mr. Elijah Rouse of Cordele, Georgia, and Mr. C.M. Reed of Fayetteville, Georgia. His beloved grandchildren, Miss Carlencia Jones and Miss Cadasia Jones, both of Warner Robins, Georgia, Miss Carrie Jones, Miss Armani Montfrey, both of Cordele, Georgia, Mr. Vantavius Williams, Jr. of Warner Robins, Georgia, Mr. Kevon Jones, Jr., Mr. Kareem Jones, Mr. Jaquise Hicks, Jr., and Mr. A.R. Jones, Mr. Ajalan Jones, all of Cordele, Georgia. His caring and devoted nieces and nephews, Miss Kenya Wilson and her husband, Mr. Octavius Wilson, Miss Keisha Willingham, Miss Christine Reed, and Miss Gabrielle Coleman, and Miss Maya Gray, a host of other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends, to include his special friend, Mr. Calvin Smith, survived. Mr. Alvin Chester Rouse, age 67, of 410 West 17th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. Mother Christine Kendrick Wiggins, age 86, of 207 Norman Lane, Warner Robins, Georgia, died Friday, January 14, at Atrium Health Navison Medical Center in Byram, Georgia. The funeral service for Mother Christine Kendrick Wiggins, age 86, was held Friday, January 21st, graveside at the Oglethorpe Memorial Gardens in Oglethorpe, Georgia. The Reverend Lee Hall officiated. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Mrs. Gloria Hunter and her husband, Mr. Rodney Hunter of Warner Robins, Georgia, Mr. Johnny Wiggins, Jr., and his wife, Mrs. Jeanette Wiggins, and Mr. Ernest Lee Wiggins, both of Oglethorpe, Georgia. A host of devoted grandchildren and great-grandchildren, a beloved brother, Mr. Eddie B. Kendrick, and his wife, Mrs. Rachel Kendrick of Oglethorpe, Georgia. Her loving and caring sisters, Miss Mary Burroughs of Cordele, Georgia, and Mrs. Martha Warren of Warner Robins, Georgia. A host of beloved nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survived. Mother Christine Kendrick Wiggins, age 86, of 207 Norman Lane, Warner Robins, Georgia. Mrs. Gwendolyn Ray Hillman, age 69, of 1116 Blackshear Road, Cordele, Georgia, died Wednesday, January 12th, at the Emory Decatur Hospital in Decatur, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Gwendolyn Ray Hillman, age 69, was held Saturday, January 22nd, graveside at the Sunnyside Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend Jeff Wilson, pastor of the Odom Grove Baptist Church, officiated. The eulogy was delivered by the Reverend Calvin Hagerbrook, pastor of Hope in the Word Ministry. Survivors include her loving and devoted son, Mr. Derek Hillman, and his wife, Mrs. Latasha Hillman of Austell, Georgia. Her loving and devoted grandchildren, Miss Avasia Lewis and her husband, Mr. Chris Lewis, and Miss Jada Hillman, both of Atlanta, Georgia. Miss Davida Hillman and Miss Nile Hillman, both of Austell, Georgia, and Master Malik Hillman of Cordele, Georgia. A beloved nephew, Mr. Lee Ray of Atlanta, Georgia. Her beloved and devoted cousin, Mrs. Willie Mae Dexter of Cordele, Georgia. A host of beloved relatives and many, many sorrowing friends, to include her special friend, Miss Connie James, Mrs. Brenda Oliver, and Miss Leslie Royal, all of Cordele, Georgia. Survived Mrs. Gwendolyn Ray Hillman, age 69, of 1116 Blackshear Road, Cordele, Georgia. United States Army veteran, Mr. Charles Edward Brown, Jr., age 73, of 466 Mills Street, Rochelle, Georgia, died Thursday, January 13th, at Shands Hospital in Gainesville, Florida. The funeral service with military honors for United States Army veteran Mr. Charles Edward Brown, Jr., age 73, was held Saturday, January 22nd, graveside at the Evergreen Baptist Church Cemetery in Rochelle, Georgia. The Reverend Travis Johnson, pastor of the Piney Grove Baptist Church of Rochelle, Georgia, officiated. Survivors include his daughter, Miss Sheila Raines, and her husband, Mr. Paris Raines, Sr. of Kathleen, Georgia. His loving and devoted sisters, Miss Odessa Brown of Rochelle, Georgia, Miss Catherine Boone and her husband, Mr. Aaron Boone of Rochester, New York, Miss Elizabeth Brown of Lithonia, Georgia, Mrs. Rosa Pearl Blackshear and her husband, Mr. Jerry Blackshear, and Miss Betty Jean Carter, all of Rochelle, Georgia, Miss Martine Brown of Fitzgerald, Georgia. His beloved and caring brothers, Mr. William Brown, Mr. Robert Brown, Mr. Cornelius Brown, and Mr. Connie Brown, all of Rochelle, Georgia. Mr. Keith H. Brown of Knoxville, Tennessee, and Mr. Calvin Brown of Rochelle, Georgia. His beloved aunts and uncles, Mr. Lee Daniels and his wife, Mrs. Kathy Daniels of Pineview, Georgia, Mrs. Betty Hentley of New Jersey, Ms. Liza Oliver of Rochelle, Georgia, and Mrs. Minnie Hamilton of Atlanta, Georgia. A host of devoted nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survived. United States Army veteran, Mr. Charles Edward Brown, Jr., age 73, of 466 Mills Street, Rochelle, Georgia. Miss Zandra Wyvette Jackson, age 48, of 2003 South Jorat Drive, Cordele, Georgia, died Saturday, January 15, at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Zandra Yvette Jackson, age 48, was held Saturday, January 22nd, graveside at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Her pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams, pastor of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, officiated. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Ms. Brittany Lucky, Mr. Darius Jackson, and Mr. Eric Jackson, all of Cordele, Georgia. Her loving and devoted mother, Mrs. Maggie Lee Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. Her stepfather, Mr. Eddie Dawson of Cordele, Georgia. Her loving and devoted sister, Mrs. Portia Jackson Vague of Atlanta, Georgia. Her beloved brothers, Mr. Gary Jackson of Cordele, Georgia, and Mr. Raphael Jackson of Atlanta, Georgia. Her beloved aunts and uncles, Mr. Elijah Jackson of Albany, Georgia, Mr. Jerry Jackson and his wife, Mrs. Dorothy Jackson of Atlanta, Georgia, Ms. Willie Mae Lowe of Byram, Georgia, Ms. May Lizzie Lowe of Cincinnati, Ohio, and Mr. Alton Jackson of Warner Robins, Georgia. 2 beloved nieces, 3 nephews, a special friend, Mr. Willie Henderson of Cordele, Georgia, a host of other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends to include Mrs. Charlotte Mitchell of Warwick, Georgia, Ms. Sharon Allen of Albany, Georgia, and Mrs. Chandrika Bryant of Macon, Georgia, Miss Cynthia Rogers, and Miss Devon Jackson survived. Miss Sandra Yvette Jackson, age 48, of 2003 South Joe Wright Drive, Cordele, Georgia. The JW. Again, the family of Mother Ida Mae Gaston Mumphrey of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mr. Alvin Chester Rouse of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Gwendolyn Ray Hillman of Cordele, Georgia. The family of United States Army veteran Mr. Charles Edward Brown, Jr. of Rochelle, Georgia. The family of Ms. Sandra Yvette Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mother Christine Kendrick Wiggins of Warner Robins, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for all of the many kindnesses shown to them during the hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. May God bless each of you, is their prayer. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors, serving Cordele and Vienna, were in charge of each of these arrangements during the past week. And now, it is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcements. Mr. Corey Vaughn Porter, age 42, of 309 Oak Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Friday, January 14th at the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital in Tallahassee, Florida. Survivors include his beloved children, Ms. Keasia Porter and Master Corey Vaughn Porter, Jr., his loving and devoted mother, Mrs. Thelma B. Porter of Cordele, Georgia. His loving and caring sisters, Miss Rolanda Barron and her husband, Mr. Calvin Barron, Mrs. Christy Luttrell and her husband, Mr. Wayne Luttrell, and Miss Janie Porter, all of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved brothers, Mr. Harrison Porter and his wife, Mrs. Angela Porter of Atlanta, Georgia. Deacon Donald Talbert and his wife, Mrs. Sharon Talbert of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved aunts and uncles, Miss Marie Porter, Mrs. Geraldine Porter Ford, and Deacon Eddie Porter Jr., all of Cordele, Georgia. Mr. Booker T. Porter of Thomasville, Georgia. A beloved great aunt, Mrs. Gladys Lewis of Cordele, Georgia. A host of devoted nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends, to include his special friend, Miss Carrie Bowens of Cordele, Georgia. Survived Mr. Corey Vaughn Porter, age 42, of 309 Oak Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. Funeral service for Mr. Corey Vaughn Porter, age 42, will be held today, Sunday, January 23rd, at 1 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Porter Court in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, will officiate. The burial will follow at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Dorothy Jones Obey, age 65, of 118 Cover Rise, Warner Robins, Georgia, died Monday, January 17, at the Houston Medical Center in Warner Robins, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted son, Mr. Antonio Obey of Jacksonville, North Carolina, her adored granddaughters, little Navi Obey of Vienna, Georgia, and little Iris Obey of Jacksonville, North Carolina. Her loving and devoted mother, Mother Ethel Jones of Vienna, Georgia. Her loving sisters, Mrs. Betty Brown of Carrollton, Georgia, Miss Linda Jones, Miss Brenda Cooper, and Mrs. Mary J. Redding and her husband, Mr. Jim Redding, all of Vienna, Georgia. Miss Shirley Bryant of Jacksonville, North Carolina, Miss Patricia Neal of Hendersonville, North Carolina, and Miss Irene Jones of Warner Robins, Georgia. Her beloved brothers, Mr. Sammy Jones and his wife, Mrs. Joanne Jones of Montgomery, Alabama, Mr. Willie Clyde Spivey and his wife, Mrs. Kay Spivey of St. Petersburg, Florida, Mr. Clarence Spivey and his wife, Mrs. Eula Spivey of Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Marcus Jones and his wife, Mrs. Stacy Jones of Montezuma, Georgia, Mr. Willie Jones and his wife, Mrs. Karen Jones of Charlotte, North Carolina, Mr. William Jones and Mr. Bobby Jones, both of Warner Robins, Georgia, Mr. LaCris Jones and his wife, Mrs. Mary Jones, Mr. Christopher Jones and his wife, Mrs. Keisha Jones, both in Atlanta, Georgia. A beloved godson, Mr. Waverly Webb Jr. of Royville, Louisiana. A host of beloved nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends, to include Miss Michelle Harris of Rayville, Louisiana, Miss Sabrina Ross, Miss Diana Crosby, Miss Valerie Turner, all of Jacksonville, North Carolina. Survived Mrs. Dorothy Jones Obey, age 65, of 118 Cover Rise, Warner Robins, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Dorothy Jones Obey, age 65, will be held Monday, January 24th at 11 a.m. graveside at the Vienna City Cemetery in Vienna, Georgia. The Reverend Sadie Jackson, pastor of the Shady Grove CME Church, Drayton Community, will officiate. The public walk-up viewing will be held today from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. The family has requested that there be no viewing on Monday, so all viewing will take place today from 1 until 5 at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mrs. Donnie Early McDonald, age 80, of 1317 Madison Street, Americus, Georgia, died Saturday, January 22nd, at her residence in Americus, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted son, Mr. Donnell McDonald, and his wife, Mrs. Barbara McDonald of Lanston, South Carolina. Two beloved grandchildren, Mr. Shaquille McDonald of Albany, Georgia, and Miss Brittany Blackman of Leesburg, Georgia. Three great-grandchildren, Miss Jonna McDonald, Mr. Ethan Ingram, and Mr. Aidan Ingram. Her beloved sister, Miss Linda Turner of Hampton, Georgia. Two beloved brothers, Mr. Maceo McDonald Jr. of Jonesboro, Georgia, Mr. Manuel Turner of Atlanta, Georgia. One stepsister, Miss Lee Frances Miles Porter of West Covington, California. One stepbrother, Mr. Lucius Miles of Hartford, Connecticut. One beloved aunt, Mrs. Dorothy Wilson of Lumpkin, Georgia. A host of beloved nieces and nephews, many cousins, to include two special cousins, Mr. Darrell Wilson and Mr. Kel Wilson, both of Lumpkin, Georgia. Mrs. Carol Baldwin and her husband, Mr. Bruce Baldwin of Newton, Georgia. And a host of other relatives and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mrs. Donnie Early McDonald, age 80, of 1317 Madison Street, Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Donnie Early McDonald, age 80, will be announced at a later date pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors, serving Cordele and Vienna, are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Friends, that conclude our funeral notices for this morning. And as always, we do remind you concerning our pre-funeral arrangements planning available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, with packages available with a single pay, a 3-year pay, a 5-year pay, and a 10-year pay. So please stop by and talk with us concerning your pre-funeral arrangements needs available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And also, whole life insurance is available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And now for announcements. The new Poplar Spring Baptist Church of Byronville, Georgia, invites everyone to join them today at 9:45 a.m. via conference call. The call-in number is 253-993-3761. Again, the call-in number 253-993-3761. The New Poplar Springs Baptist Church of Byronville, Georgia, invites you by way of via conference call this morning, 253-993-3761. The Reverend Johnny Dean, pastor, teacher, New Poplar Springs Baptist Church of Byronville, Georgia. Christ Chapel of Unadilla, Georgia, weekly food pantry is open every Saturday from 9 a.m. until 12 noon. Christ Chapel, Unadilla, weekly food pantry every Saturday from 9 a.m. until 12 noon. The Evergreen Baptist Church of Pinehurst, Georgia, will not have service today, January 23rd. Sister Bertha L. Thomas, Secretary, Deacon John David Law, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend David Thomas is the pastor. The Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church conference call schedule as follows. Sunday morning at 9 a.m., Tuesday midday prayer conference at 12 noon, Thursday prayer meeting and Bible study at 6 p.m. The call-in number for the conference call is 229-329-7611. 229-329-7611. Or you may worship via Facebook Live at 9 a.m. Everyone is invited. Mother Lucille Shazer, Church Mother, Deacon Tommy Ford Jr., Vice Chairman of Deacons, Dr. K.M. Williams, Pastor. The Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church invites everyone to pull up and praise each Sunday at 10 a.m., 1818 U.S. Highway 41 North, Cordele, Georgia. 1818 U.S. Highway 41 North, Cordele, Georgia, across from the Farmers Market. Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church, each Sunday morning at 10 a.m. The Reverend Gregory Williams, pastor, Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church. The St. King Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them. That's on first and third Sundays. The Mount Zion First African Baptist Church conference call schedule, Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., prayer Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 noon. Bible study each Wednesday at 5 p.m. The conference call number is 339-206-6419. The Mount Zion First African Baptist Church conference call schedule, Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., prayer Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 noon. Bible study each Wednesday at 5 p.m. The call-in number is 339-209-6419. Deacon Joe Wedges, Chairman of Deacons, Dr. Dan James III, Pastor. The Gethsemane Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them via Zoom call each Sunday at 10:30 a.m. The call-in number is 312-626-6799. The meeting ID is 8103001419. The passcode is 435708. The Bible study Wednesday at 7 p.m. via conference call. The number is 229-234-9066. And please call any member of the Gethsemane Baptist Church to receive those numbers. They have about 3 or 4 different numbers here. So Deacon Johnny Wilson, Chairman of Deacon, Mother Mary Butler, Church Mother, and the Reverend Cecil Strawder, Pastor. So please call any member there of the Gethsemane Baptist Church to receive those numbers for the Zoom call throughout. The Shady Grove Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them today. Bible study each Tuesday at 6 p.m. Sister Levy Wheeler, Church Mother, Deacon Bobby Barner, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend Kelvin Drake Sr., Pastor. The New Oak Grove Baptist Church invites everyone to join them on Facebook Live at 10 a.m. The New Oak Grove Baptist Church invites everyone to join them on Facebook Live at 10 a.m. Deacon Sister Letha Askew, Church Clerk and Trustee, Deacon Alonzo Jones, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend W. Wilson, Pastor. The Davis Chapel CME Church of Araby, Georgia, will have worship service today at 10 a.m. Face mask required. Everyone is invited. Brother Ruby Barrett, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend Arnell Werben, Pastor. The Crossroad Baptist Church will have in-house worship service today at 10 a.m. Everyone in attendance is asked to wear a face mask and practice social distancing today at the Crossroad Baptist Church at 10 a.m. Everyone is invited. Deacon Jimmy Charles Mumphrey, Chairman of Deacons, the Reverend Nelson Maynard is the pastor. The M.D. White's Medical Institute, 401 North 15th Street, Cordele, Georgia, the former A.S. Clark School, will be conducting both Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine on Wednesday and Friday at 10 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Vaccination shot for children ages 5 to 12 are now being offered, as well as the booster. Walk-in visit are acceptable. Appointments are not required. The M.D. White's Medical Institute, 401 North 15th Street, Cordele, Georgia, the former A.S. Clark School, will be conducting both Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine Wednesdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Vaccination shots for children age 5 to 12 are now being offered, as well as the booster. Walk-in visits are acceptable. No appointments are required. Dr. Matthew White is M.D. of the M.D. White's Institute, 401 North 15th Street, here in Cordele, Georgia. Southwest Georgia United will have a home buyers education workshop Saturday, January 29th from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. This is a virtual event. For more information and reservation, please contact Mrs. Denise Ruff at 229-947-2944. Mrs. Denise Ruff at 229-947-2944. That concludes our announcements for this morning, and we do pray that you would govern yourselves accordingly. And now for dedications. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following. Happy birthday to Mr. Bryson Daniels, who celebrated his birthday Friday, January 21st. Dedication requested by his parents, grandparents, and the entire family. Mr. Bryson Daniels, believing that's going to be Mr. Broderick Daniels of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home son. Mr. Bryson Daniels celebrated his birthday Friday. Happy birthday, Bryson, and many, many more. Happy birthday to our friend and brother, Deacon Henry King of the Gethsemane Baptist Church, who will celebrate his birthday Thursday, January 27th. Dedication requested by the King and Rogers families and all of the members of the Gethsemane Baptist Church. Says, happy birthday to Deacon Henry King. Wish for him many, many more. Happy birthday to the Reverend Choice Carr, who celebrated his birthday this past week. Don't have the date here. Dedication requested by his beloved wife, Mrs. Deborah Cobb, his children, grandchildren, the members of the Free Providence Baptist Church and the Spring Hill Baptist Church of Tibbettville, where he serves as pastor there. Happy birthday to our friend and brother, the Reverend Choice Cobb, and wish for him many, many more. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following. Deacon James Smith and family, Mr. Simon Felder and family, Miss Jenny Bell Sanders and family, the Reverend and Mrs. Keith Lewis and family, Vienna, Georgia, Mr. and Mrs. George Rockert and family, Mrs. Joe Black and family, Vienna, Georgia, Miss Pamela Law and family, Mr. Harvey C. and family, Mother Blotty Bill and family, Mrs. Maddie West and family, Mr. and Mrs. John Leroy Perry and family, the Cantrell family, the Hardrick family, Miss Marie Felton and family, Mrs. Bobby Jane Vandrow and family, Mrs. W.D. King and family, Miss Christine Kingdom and family, Mr. and Mrs. Pernell Lakeler and family, Dr. and Mrs. Thaddeus Lakeler and family, Mrs. Dorothy Lamar and family, the Clee Hoggerbrook family, Mrs. Cynthia Woodson and family, Mrs. Rosa Cooper and family, Miss Lily Mae Perry and family, the Mike Hamilton family of Lily, Georgia, Mr. and Mrs. Emerson Lundy and family, the Granville family, Mr. Arthur Lawson and family, Mrs. Calvin Baskin Jr. and family, Mr. Frank Thomas and family, Mrs. Molly Williams and family, Miss Shirley Jean Taylor and family, Mrs. Evelyn Thomas and family, Miss G. Lundy and family, Mrs. Eunice Lewis and family, Mrs. Claudia Mae Dawson and family, Mr. and Mrs. Frank Armin and family, Mrs. Randall Lango and family, Mrs. Minnie Jewel Duhart and family, Mr. and Mrs. Wayne Adams and family, Deacon and Mrs. Willis Sutton and family, Mrs. Nanny Lee Burks and family, Mr. Tommy Rogers and family, Mr. and Mrs. Willie Lee Taylor Sr. and family, the Crosby family, Deacon Chester McWilliam and family, Mrs. Maddie Ruth King and family, Deacon and Mrs. Bruce Kendrick and family, Mr. Roger Duhart and family, Mrs. Doris Duhart and family, Miss Nora Lee Adams and family, Ms. Athaline Perry and family, Mr. and Mrs. Clarence White and family, Mrs. Charlie Mae Peacock and family, Mr. and Mrs. Bobby Anderson and family, Ms. Nettie Mae Wise and family, Mrs. Alton Jordan and family, Mr. and Mrs. Scotty Grant and family, the Clee Cross family, Mr. Clayton Dykes and family, the Charlotte Cheney family, the Clayton family, the Clayton and Coleman family of Lily, Georgia, Mr. Harry Bird Jr. and family, Mrs. Carrie Whelan family, Miss Lucille Brown and family, Mr. Michael Sanders and family, Miss Lily Brown and family, Mr. and Mrs. Eddie James Walker and family, Byronville, Georgia, the Burks family, the Army Mr. Army Lewis family, the Reverend and Mrs. Lewis Burden and family, Deacon and Mrs. Albert King and family, the Hazel Clark family, Commissioner and Mrs. Harry Ward and family, Mrs. Ruthie Daniels and family, Mrs. Viola Green and family, Mrs. Pearline Roundtree and family, Miss Sarah Coleman family, Brother and Mrs. James Wise and family, Mrs. Margaret Jordan, retired educator, Deacon and Mrs. John Perry and family of Vienna, Georgia, Mrs. Mary Benjamin and family, Deacon George Jordan and family, Deacon Walter Brown and family, Mr. and Mrs. Winston Keaton and family, Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Morrell and family, Mrs. Martha Harris and family, Miss Mary Morrell and family, Mr. Mandel Johnson and family, the Lester family, Mr. and Mr. James Byram and family, Mr. Curtis Whitfield and family, Mr. and Mrs. Joe Clark and family, Vienna, Georgia, Deacon John David Law, Chairman of the Board of Deacons of the Evergreen Baptist Church of Pinehurst, Georgia, Mrs. S.M.A. Davis and family, Mrs. Odessa Sheffield and family, Mrs. Benitha Armstrong and family, Mr. Edgar Lee and family, Deacon and Mrs. Willie Fields and family, Mr. and Mrs. Jerome Jordan and family, Vienna, Georgia, Miss Christine Jordan and family, Mr. and Mrs. Willie B. Barnes and family, Chairman, Deacon and Mrs. Morris McClendon and family of the Ebenezer Baptist Church of Vienna, Georgia, our first selection for this morning. Our next selection this morning is dedicated to the following: to the Pittman, Trice, Walker, and Williams, Tony Williams and family, Mr. Cleveland R. Lemon, oldest staff member of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home and steward of the Bethel CME Church here in Cordele, Georgia, Mother Easter Byram and family, and the entire Byram family, to my neighbor, Mrs. Theron Jones and family, the entire Jones and Tarbert family, Mother Dorothy Tarbert and family, Deacon and Mrs. John Stubbs and family, Brother Johnny and Mrs. Juanita Tarbert and family. This selection goes out to Mrs. Charlie Mae Colson and family, Mr. Johnny and Miss Barbara Dennis and family, Miss Lucille McGill and family, Miss Gwen Westbrook and family, Miss Essie Gay and family, Miss Gwen Henderson and family, Miss Eddie Ruth White and family, Chairman Deacon Sammy and Miss Shanice McGill and family, Deacon George and Mrs. Ann Whitehead and family, Miss Geraldine Harvey and family, Deacon Eugene and Miss Deborah Williams and family, Mrs. Lenore McGill and family, Mr. Dravian and Miss Kathy McGill and family, Mrs. Jerry Grant and family, Miss Mary Thomas and family, the Fagan family, Mrs. Brenda Webb and family, Mrs. Betty Webb and family, Mrs. Tawana Webb and family, Mr. Travis Webb and family, Mrs. Dorothy Wise and family, the Reverend and Mrs. Layfield Buckholz and family, Unadilla, Georgia, Miss Lucy Baker and family, Mother Lucille Shazer, age 108, and preparing for a 109th birthday on February of 2022. So happy birthday coming up to our beloved mother, Mother Lucille Shazer, age 108, be 109. I was able to sit with her on this past week at the Bill home, and she's doing very well. To Miss Mary Bill and Commissioner Vesta Bill and family there. Deacon Dave Chambliss and family, Mr. and Mrs. Jamie Chambliss and family, the Johnny L. Cobb family of Vienna, Georgia, Mother Adeline Lofton and family of Araby, Georgia, church mother of the Little Rock Baptist Church of Araby, Georgia, Mrs. Willie Mae Leary and family, and the entire Leary and Carter family of Hatley, Georgia, Miss Lucille Hillman and family of Ashburn, Georgia, Miss Maddie Mays and family, Miss Lee Dolis Butts and family, Leesburg, Georgia, Deacon Lonnie Clayton and family, Miss Brenda Redden and family, Mr. Freddie Bimmer and family, Miss Viola Adams and family, the family of the late Bishop Liam Wright and family, and the members of the Marthana Living Way of Christ, Mrs. Gloria Walker and family, Miss Lynette Ross and family, the family of the late Mother Ida Rose Oliver, Mrs. Jean Oliver Burtz and family, Deacon Sammy, Mrs. Fanny Montfrey and family, Mr. Charlie, Miss Ruby Jean Ross and family, Miss Cheryl Allen Young and family, Dr. Bobby G and Miss Melba West and family, Miss Christine Anderson and family, Miss Hilda Ray and family, Miss Terry Boston and family, the Reverend Lord Haskett and family, Minister Sharonda Town and family. It is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcement. Mr. Corey Von Porter, Von Porter, age 42, of 309 Oak Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Friday, January 14, at the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital in Tallahassee, Florida. The funeral service for Mr. Corey Von Porter, age 42, will be held today, Sunday, January 23rd, at 1 p.m., at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Portico in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, will officiate. The burial will follow at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Dorothy Jones Obey, age 65, of 118 Cover Rise, Warner Robins, Georgia, died Monday, January 17, at the Houston Medical Center in Warner Robins, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Dorothy Jones Obey, age 65, will be held Monday, January 24th at 11 a.m. graveside at the Vienna City Cemetery in Vienna, Georgia. The Reverend Sadie Jackson, pastor of the Shady Grove CME Church, will officiate. The public walk-up viewing will be today from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. The family has requested that there will be no viewing of the remains on the day of the service. Mrs. Donnie Early McDonald, age 80, of 1317 Madison Street, Americus, Georgia, died Saturday, January 22nd, at her residence in Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Donnie Earl McDonald, age 80, will be announced at a later date pending the completion of the arrangement. The J.W. Williams funeral directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Our next and final selection for this morning is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones were laid to rest during the past week. The family of Mother Ida Mae Gaston Mumphrey of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mr. Alvin Chester Rouse of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mother Christine Kendrick Wiggins of Warner Robins, Georgia, and Oglethorpe, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Gwendolyn Ray Hillman of Cordele, Georgia. The family of United States Army veteran Mr. Charles Edward Brown, Jr. of Rochelle, Georgia. The family of Ms. Zandra Wivette Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. This selection is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones will be laid to rest during this week. The family of Mr. Corey Vaughn Porter of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Dorothy Jones Obey of Warner Robins, Georgia, and Vienna, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Donnie Earl McDonald of Americus, Georgia. This election is dedicated to all of the sick and shut-in, to all patients in the local and surrounding hospitals, nursing homes, and rehabilitation centers, to our beloved ministers and their devoted family members, to all retired educators, to the men and women serving in our armed forces, both stateside and abroad, to all veterans, and to everyone who listens to our program on each Sunday morning. It's a pleasure for us to bring it to you. Our program goes out in memory of our past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams, goes out to my wife, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, to my son, Jai Wilkerson Parker. The selection goes out to my mother-in-law, Miss Billy Ann Hall, and family. Goes out to my brother, retired Chief Master Sergeant Norman F. Dexter, to his wife, Dr. Gwendolyn Maxine Dexter, and grandson Noble. The selection goes out to my sister, Miss Maddie Mae Johnson, better known as Sister Girl, and Mrs. Patsy Jackson, and her husband, Sir Jim Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. The selection goes out to my nephew, Deacon Kenneth Smith, program chairman of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. Selection goes out to our pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams, and to his wife, Sister Kathy Williams. Dr. K.M. Williams, pastor of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church and moderator of the Gum Creek Missionary Baptist Association. This selection goes out to our church mother again, Mother Lucille Shaza, age 108, and yes, preparing for 109, be it the Lord's will, in the month of February 2022. This selection goes out to our chairman, Deacon Tommy Ford, and family. This selection goes out to my cousin, Deacon Emery Wright, and family of Leesburg, Georgia, and the entire Wright family of Albany and Lee County, Georgia. This selection goes out to Deaconess Martha Cross and family, Mother Willeen McGill and family. This selection goes out to Miss Easter May Sanders and family, the Redding family, and again to each and everyone who listens to our program on each Sunday morning. It's a pleasure for us to bring it to you. Our final selection for this morning, and we bid you a good day and wish that you'll continue to stay safe. God bless you.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Tune in again on next Sunday morning. And remember, in your time of need, contact the competent, capable, and dependable staff at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.